G'day, folks. It is February, which means it's Hobby Hangout. You're here with the coach, and we are going to do a little bit of hobby. We're going to spend probably the next hour to hour and a half doing a little bit of modeling. What you see here is we're going to be working on some very interesting and very detailed LOL bases. They'll be working on for my gun stock gun haulers, some Endron riggers, something for my new Phoenix, and a little customized, bringing back from the old world, Ice Queen of Kislev, which I'll be putting on top of the Frost Phoenix. So, g'day everyone. Hey Tyler, good to be here. Thanks for hanging out. So I hope you grab some hobby, you join along. Hopefully this inspirational music gets you in the mood to do some hobby and doesn't distract you too much. Let me know if the sound is a little bit too much. But yeah, we're going to do a little bit of hobby hangout. The purpose of this is really for us to hang out and chat and do a bit of hobby together. If you have any questions, feel free to jump them in the description, and I'll answer them either when we're not live, or if you're in the live chat now, we can chat along, and, you got some topics or some things to discuss, or some list building ideas. You want to know what's going on in my world and maybe what's coming up in front of the channel over the next couple of months. This is the space for you. So without further ado, I'm going to start working on some hobby. I'd love to know what you guys are working on, whether it's Friday and you're still in America, or it's Saturday, you're in the future like me in Australia. Very much I'm focused on a tournament coming up in 2 weeks' time. In fact, I'll be playing game 2 this time in a fortnight. So Doom and Darkness is running an event called SAGT with his counterpart Matt the Wildform Weiss. So I'll be heading over to play with the cities of Sigmar. And I have a lot of painting to do because I've decided to rest my Hello Heart list and try something a little bit different in the form of Tempest Eye. So going from a magic focused kind of army to a little bit more shooting, a little bit more movability. I'm making up words. Basically moving around the table is what I'm looking for. Just looking for my dry brush. I think I brought all of my brushes to the table except my dry brush. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so coming off CanCon, so the last game that I really got to play was CanCon, although I did play a game yesterday. And while I enjoyed Magic and Hello Heart, I found it a little bit static for me, at least the style that I was kind of playing with. So I'm decided to try Tempest Eye a little bit, get some old models out that I haven't played with for a long time. The Free Guild Pistoliers is certainly one that I haven't touched since Warhammer Fantasy, actually. So I'm going to pull them out and start to move the camera so you guys can see what I'm working on. That's a bit better, hopefully. All right, you can see this. Awesome. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on. Got a couple of tournaments. Actually, this has turned out to be quite a big tournament year so far. I'll be going over to. I've got a tournament in March, as I've just talked about, which is the SAGT. Just over a month after that, I'll be heading to Canberra. There is an event. It's like a tournament, but it's also more. It's like a wargaming convention that raises funds for our military, not specifically to the military, but more to support people who have given service to our country. A charity called Soldier On. So they've got an Age of Sigmar tournament that it'll be also other game systems, but Age of Sigmar is about 40 players so far, while the other tournament, I think is Infinity, there's maybe Bolt Action, there's 40k, they're on about 10 or less players. So Sigmar's already blown out a lot, which is going to be great. That's in April. I've got an event called Sydney Slaughter, which is run by the crew from Mortally Wounded, which is more of a narrative sports type event as opposed to like a grand tournament. That's in June. And then in July, I come over to America to play at Midwest Meltdown. And then hot off the press yesterday, I booked a trip to New Zealand, which is about 3-4 hours flight from where I live in Sydney. And in September, they have a tournament called Notorious GT, run by Surprise of the Century Notorious, the podcast. So a lot of tournaments coming up. And then I have my own tournament I'm running in October. So lots going on. Tyler is finishing up his Go Trek. It's Friday evening. Next to finish is the Claw Lord, which I know is going out to a special somebody, his Hobby Valentine. So very cool to see that kind of finished up, and then working on some Dark Shards. So very cool to see the elves coming back on the table, more than just the Phoenix Guard that people like me who are very cheesy are bringing. Safeguard Double D is hello. Putting together a Bloodthirster. Ooh, what type of Bloodthirster? Is it the Incessant Rage? Is it? There's so many cool Bloodthirsters. The Wrath of the Everchosen has got that five Bloodthirster list, which is pretty awesome. That I would like to play against, although I know it's going to hurt probably a lot. 5 Bloodthirsters. I played 4 Stonehorns and a whole bunch of 4 Stonehorns, a Thunder Tusk, and a whole bunch of the Mournfang Cavalry, and it hurt a lot. So 5 Bloodthirsters with all of the goodness, I think would be really cool if you end up going down that route. But either way, I hope you enjoy that Bloodthirster. I think they are awesome models. Circus, g'day Circus, sup? What are you working on? Give us a bit of a shout on what you guys are working on, whether it's Friday, whether it's Saturday, if you guys are playing a game, what your hobby schedule is looking like. I've also got, just so you guys know as well, being that it's going to be the end of the month, I have the Emerging Meta series, which is almost due. So probably in the next couple of days, I'll start pulling the data for the emerging meta and seeing what the impacts of the Nurgle, for example. We saw Nurgle get a new, sub-allegiance in Wrath of the Everchosen, which I think, based on what I'm seeing so far, seems very popular. It's almost, rejuvenated the Nurgle community. So I'm expecting to see lots of that. But also we've started to see Zench and KO, whether it's been FAQ, whether people are kind of playing around and kind of getting to understand their build a little bit more to see where that's starting to land with the emerging meta. And if people are even still playing Petrifex Elite, or we got bored of that already, are people trying something else like the Null Myriad, or we've seen some Cities of Sigmar lists come out really interesting that are playing well at tournaments, things like Anvil Guard, things like Tempest Eye is one that's going really well. I saw a couple of lists that had like 30 Pistoliers and Outriders, which is very, very interesting. No one's talking about that. It was all about Hallowheart. It was all about, double piling in Hammerhall. So I'd be really curious to see what is happening in the emerging meta. Safeguard, you are building the Assessant Rage. Mostly playing Mortals, but you want to get a big guy to reap the skulls alongside. You're my kind of player. I like it. I'm assuming that when you say Mortals, you're talking like All Pilgrims and having all the prayers and that evil prayer, the Hex Gorgeous Skull, that, stay away from me. We got Tyler having a pint. I'm assuming it's a pint of delicious water. So we'll see how hydrated I get today. This is my drinks. Yeah, that does sound good. So, yeah, so right now I'm very, very, very tournament focused, given that I have an event almost one a month almost, or it's getting close to one every 2 months at minimum. And then in about 5 or 6 hours time, actually it's probably closer to 5 hours, I'm starting to sell tickets to my own event. So every year I've started running an event called Sydney GT. And tickets will go on sale in about 5 or 6 hours time. It's borrowing from some of the best packs that I've seen across the country, and putting my own spin on it, but taking real inspiration from a gentleman in America called Domus, who ran the Midwest Meltdown last year, which was all about bringing a monster and playing in Gur. So I really liked the pack. I thought it was interesting to play in Gur. Most people kind of freaked out and don't like the idea of playing in Gur. So we're going to really lean in, and the event's called Where the Wild Things Are, because it's meant to simulate, being in a different world and, taming a monster and, making it your ally, and then, killing your opponent, drinking their blood, and, reaping the skulls of the fallen opponents. In all a very balanced way, where I've written a custom war scroll for it, so it's not like, hey, free monster, I'm going to bring the most overpowered Star Drake, or something that's super busted. What else we got in the chat? Tyler's getting some love with Safeguard. They're talking really cool stuff. Ooh, sounds like a delicious choice of beer. A great ad with the monster. Yeah. I think I love monsters. I think it's my favorite part of Age of Sigmar. I hope we start seeing more monsters. That I was really inspired by seeing things like the cockatrice, or the Jabberslith, or the Carmine Dragon is one of my favorite monsters. But there are so many even cool chaos monsters, Gargants even, that you don't see on the tabletop very often. So I wanted to give people an excuse to bring a monster without it counting against their 2,000 point choice. So something a little different, I think people will enjoy. But let me know what's going on in your world, guys. What would you like to know from me on this fine hobby hangout? And is the music too loud as well? I hope it's not. If this was Twitch, I could play some really cool music that I wouldn't have to worry about copyrights. Instead, I've got to choose some generic music. So right now what I'm doing is I've all my bases I've been using. I'm really inspired by using ground coffee beans on my current army base. So what you're seeing here, I'll see if I can pull it across. Where's the camera? Yeah, it looks like hot garbage. Maybe over here is a bit better. But what I've done to create, a very textured base is I've recycled my coffee beans, roasted them in the oven for about 10 minutes to kill the bacteria, and then glue them on the base, sealed it with some PVA glue. And it's what I really enjoy over it compared to, say, some sand, is you've got a lot of variant textures. If you grind your coffee beans coarse, so you've got a whole bunch of different levels and textures and sizes, it really simulates, I don't know, a bit more unevenness of the earth compared to, let's say, sand, or a GW paint. So what I'm doing is I've got a dryad bark base color. Just going to go over it with Tyrant Skull. I'm then going to put a wash down using Agrax Earthshade Gloss. And the reason I'm using a gloss for this is I'm attempting to simulate a muddy ground. So being a muddy ground will have a bit more liquid onto it. It'll have a bit of sheen and a bit of light radiating off the water or the liquid on the ground. The gloss, I feel, does that quite nicely. So I found if I use the dry brushing before the gloss, which is a little bit different, most people would normally put put a gloss or a wash over a base before a highlight. But I find that the brown kind of mutes down the tyrant skull a little bit and blends it in quite nicely. So you've got a bit of variance, but still it's quite consistent. So that's how that works. Hey, Cameron, what have you missed? You've missed a whole bunch of rambling. I'm sure I talked about... No, I was talking about mostly... I've got a bunch of tournaments coming up over the next couple of months. I have actually probably one of my biggest tournament seasons since I played at the Masters in Australia in 2017. I went to a lot of tournaments to get those points and to compete. Kind of pulled back a little bit. And this year I've almost got like a tournament a month, every 6 weeks. So should be pretty cool. And recently booked a trip over to New Zealand, which will be my first time playing in the New Zealand community. So the flights were like $250 return for a premium airline carrier. So it was hard to justify sitting on my couch with the wife. And I said, oh, can I go, please? Do you want to come? She's like, no. I'm like, can we go? She's like, if you want to go. I'm like, am I going to wake up from my sleep? Are you going to kill me tonight if I book tickets? And she's like, no, I won't kill you. So yeah, last night booked tickets to Notorious GT. How many Endrin riggers am I running in this list? Originally, I was going to run 3, and I've converted up some Endrin riggers out of Halflings. So I bought the Halfling Blood Bowl kit, and I kit bashed it with the Endrin rigger kit. So it's Halflings, with their balloons, and I've kit bashed it a little bit, which is kind of cool. Well, I think it's cool. But I've dropped them. And the challenge that I've got right now is that in Tempest Die, you can have 1 in every 4 can be a KO unit. So it would basically mean I would need 12 units to have 3 KO units, would be the 2 gun haulers and the Endrin riggers. But my list is due tonight, or tomorrow, actually. So in Australia, most tournaments, you have to submit your list 2 weeks prior to the event. So you can do like a list review show. You can kind of make sure that every list that's coming is tournament legal. So I have probably 36 hours at most to settle on the list that I'm playing. I know John Rocco, friend of the channel, very active on my Discord channel. By the way, if you're interested in Discord, in the description down here, I do have a link to join the Discord channel. You're absolutely welcome to join that. But yeah, just trying to work out what I'm going to take right now. Where am I going with it so far? So I've got an Anointed on Frost Phoenix, which will be the general in a Tempest Eye list. I have a Hurricanum with a Thermal Rider Cloak. I have a Battle Mage. Now, last night I tried a different Battle Mage. Normally I would run the one from Hish, which gives you -1 to hit on a unit. I tried the one from Gur, which is +2 to run, move and charges, or run and moves. What else have I got? I've got 30 Phoenix Guard. I have 10 Pistoliers, 5 Pistoliers, 2 KO Gunstock gun haulers, which don't count as allies in a Tempest Eye list. Unit of Shadow Warriors. I had an Anointed on foot, but I'm thinking about bringing it back into an Anita Zeros or maybe another Battle Mage. I have Emerald Life Swarm, and I had Quicksilver Swords, and I think that makes up 2,000 points on the nose. But I'm thinking about the Anointed, and maybe the Anita Zeros would benefit the shooting a bit more. And it has a pretty cool once per battle attack against demons where it can kind of shine its lantern. What's going on here? See what else is working on. Yep, so looking forward to seeing that Go Trek. I really would like to try to do a Go Trek at some point. I know Darren Watson is doing a very cool competition to see who can kill the most things with Go Trek. So, which is very fascinating. Cameron's doing his Bone Splitter Boys. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So you will see him at Notorious. Seth Cook, the Goon King, reckons he has a couch for the coach. So yeah, really looking forward to going and seeing what the New Zealand crew. I know you guys have aspirations to get to 90 players this year, so it'd be good to see how many Australians go over. But I've certainly bought my ticket at least to flying to Wellington. Seth's going to sort out the rest. I don't know if I should trust Seth. Bone splitters are very, very cool. We're seeing a lot of them actually being brought into the big WAG as opposed to bone splitters, but there's some very cool stuff where you can go down the Drakfoot or the ice brow, the ice, whatever the sub-allegiance, the ice one is. And yes, absolutely, Seraphon. I'm hoping this weekend we get the announcement to say that next week's pre-orders are Seraphon. It'd be cool if we get like some videos or some painting guides or some some hype around the Seraphon. So fingers crossed we finally get our space lizards or our Anzac. I don't know what the law's going to look like anymore, given that we did have that Aztec theme. That kind of moved into more of like a celestial holy demon from space that remembered, and now we're kind of going back to that original kind of aesthetic. The really cool terrain piece, that temple-like terrain piece, which I think is going to be outstanding. So I cannot wait to see Seraphon coming back. Tyler disconnected. Tyler, you've seen my list in the Discord. I'll put it back up in the Discord, what I'm running. So do you rate the Ulgu spell? Are you talking about the Battle Mage Ulgu spell? Is that the Mystifying Miasma? Remind me what it does. I can't remember. But I know from me, things like the Gairan Shield of Thorns, which is nice. So when someone charges you, they take D3 mortal wounds, or, -1 to hit has been very, very good from Hish. Even Fireball from Akshi, D6 mortal wounds has been very good for me. Cameron King's doing, okay, yep, cool. What am I working on right now? What am I painting? Hey, Jack, I was just talking about using the Gur Battle Mage spell. I tried it. I saw your list at insert event name here. Didn't like it. +2 is not nearly as good as Hish's -1 to hit, especially when you've got your Frost Phoenix giving yourself a -1 to the wound roll. So I will be going back to my Hish Battle Mage spell. But it was good to try something different. Everyone's loving. By the way, shout out to Rerolling Ones, probably the best battle reports out there. If you don't know who they are, you're probably living under a rock. Go give them a subscribe. Go watch their videos. They're effing good. And Jack is likely going to host me on a battle report when I'm in Seattle in July. So I hope he hasn't forgotten. I certainly have it tattooed on my back. Very excited, waiting for that signature. So fingers crossed. I'll find a way to kind of ditch the wife for the day. Should be outstanding. What else have we got? I'm thinking the terrain feature is going to be summoning things. Yeah, absolutely. I think I could definitely see some summoning. Jack is working on some painting for Adepticon. Super jealous that anyone who's going to Adepticon this year. Absolutely loved my time at Adepticon last year. The team's event looks amazing. I think they've extended the GW preview seminar this year. So I think it's going to be 2 hours of previews as opposed to 1 hour. So who knows what they're going to show us off? Are they going to show us Gargants? Are they going to show us Dark Elves, Malarian's Elves? Are they going to show us 40K, maybe a new edition? What's coming down the pipeline? Total War 3, who knows? It's going to be cool. Riptide, yes, that was the event. And congratulations on your performance at Riptide. It was very, very, very sweet. I do wish that my gun haulers did half of what yours did last night. I did a total of 1 wound to my opponent with 2 gun haulers with a +1 to its wound roll, +1 to their hit rolls. I could not roll for the life of me. Probably because I was using Hello Heart dice as opposed to using Tempest Eye dice. The gods punished me significantly. So I'm going to try to keep these on screen. If you're wondering what this is going to be, so I'm rebasing my Frost Phoenix. One of the big drivers to rebasing my Frost Phoenix is I had magnetized it to its base, which was really cool for transport, but I've swapped out the Anointed for this. Now you probably can't see it right now. Might be a bit hard to see with a white undercoat, but essentially it is the old Ice Queen of Kislev, which was an Empire Wizard model, or Kislev was north of the Empire. And it was a model that I absolutely loved, you know, and I thought the Ice Queen of Kislev would be perfect to ride my Frost Phoenix to keep that kind of free guild aesthetic. But the challenge is it's a metal model. Probably 2/3 of this is metal. Oh, you can't see that. I'm using the wrong camera. Or over here. Yeah. Well, let's see if I can. So might be a bit. Yeah. So it's a bit metal model, and basically the Phoenix kind of just completely tilts. So I need to rebase it. So I thought, what better way to grab an Azurite Ruins, and I'll probably just kind of tilt it up like that. So it's a bit more stable, and I can have my metal model on top. So yeah, absolutely. You should use shout out to those guys as well. The Azir Weekly. I didn't get any dice from Jono, but I did ask Jono for a hat, so might even grudge Jono for round 1 at Notorious. If you've never seen the Azir Weekly, it's a satirical website on Facebook, or it's a satirical, he published articles that are very much in the mortal realms and post light at a lot of things. Very, very, very funny. Go check them out. There's no affiliation. I get no money for it, but I do highly enjoy their comedic articles on a weekly basis. G'day, Rocco. Thanks for jumping in. I know you've got like a date night with Crash Bandicoot. I'm glad you come over and say hello. He did make it, and absolutely Bucket Ninja Tyler is around. I just bought her for the Hurricanum. So I'd love to see what you do for the Hurricanum. That'd be interesting because she is a mounted model. She used to ride a horse in the olden days. So I'd be curious to see what you've done. Rocco, he's a smart ass. He's been given some interesting advice. I haven't decided if I'm going to listen to him. He does know his stuff though. He practices a lot. He's had a lot more games than me recently, and that's for sure. Really, one of my Hurricane. Oh, you cheeky. So Jack, I'm going to bring that comment up. So one of his Hurricanum says, Balthasar Gelt, you're a cheeky boy. So I was looking at doing Balthasar Gelt. I was going to return him on the Toralon, replicating what's his name? The Magister from Hammerhall, old mate. Insert name here, but his rules are hot garbage unless you run Stormcast. Someone's gonna say something. So the wife's in bed. Awesome. You indeed are a smartass. Please do let me know what that hero is. The Magister of Hammerhall and Stormcast. He can be brought into Hammerhall as well. But I was thinking about using Balthasar Gelt and converting that up. So I think great minds do things alike. I just call him the Mayor of Hammerhall. Love it. Even if Stormcast, he's kind of hot garbage. In the Cities of Sigma, he is hot garbage because a lot of his stuff doesn't synergize very well unless you go down a Stormcast build, which in Hammerhall, I don't want to do. So, have a sip of coffee. Have a milk moustache. And we got Rocco here. So let me know what you guys are working on. I mentioned I've been going to a whole bunch of tournaments in the next couple of weeks, but from a content point of view, I thought I should share with you where I'm at and what I'm doing with content over the next couple of months. So Faction Focus is a series that I've been running now for about 18 months, where I've been recording with approximately 2 great players out there in the community who play with the faction. So recently recorded a video on Flesh Eater Courts with two amazing players, one from Australia called Jesse, one called Bill in America, is ETC captain. We talked for about 3 hours all about Flesh Eater Courts and how do you build, play, customize with a Flesh Eater Courts army. And I've done that for 18 months or beyond. Now, that series is kind of coming to an end. All I have left to do now is Zench. Zench is the last one I need to build. Obviously, Seraphon's coming. Obviously, Pointy Elves are coming. Our Lumineth are coming. Gargants, the Gargants are a myth, aka the Sons of Behemoth. All of these are going to be coming, but certainly the backlog is done. So I've been thinking about what do I do with my time? How do I make the most of the channel, and what do I do now that that series is coming over? So a couple of things come to mind. First, Down Under Sigma has been really good, and I've really enjoyed my time with Down Under Sigma, but the challenge is that I record on a Wednesday, which means that I can't get a lot of guests outside of Australia because when I'm recording at night time, it's often work time or sleep time for my guests in other regions. So I want to start up something similar on a weekend. So what I'm thinking of doing is pulling back Down Under Sigma from a fortnightly episode to a monthly episode. So Liam and I can talk on a monthly basis, but with that 3 hours that I would normally run on a fortnight, make that into a Saturday episode or a Sunday episode with someone overseas. And the first one we've got booked is in about 4 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, where I've got Doug from 2 Plus Tough. And we're going to talk about the narrative of the Mortal Realms and how do you get into the Mortal Realms? How do you understand the lore? How do you understand the realms? And just getting a really good sense of how do you understand what your army does outside of just what happens on the tabletop. So, and yes, Aventus Firestrike was the name I was looking for. Thank you very much, the Magister of Hammerhall. Rocco coming in with the goods as always. So I'm going to continue that series, and I'm going to, it's not going to be a series per se, but I'm going to basically get a whole bunch of interesting guests that I've lined up or trying to line up. I may or may not have slid into Duncan Rhodes's DMs the other day, just before he announced his new channel, trying to see if I can get him to talk. But that was a bit of a Hail Mary pass. Let's see how we go, especially with his new channel coming up. So stay tuned. But we'll try to do something like that. Next Sunday is International Women's Day, so I'll be doing an episode with 3 amazing women, and I want to talk about women in wargaming. Now, some of you might get freaked out and think that it's just going to be me bashing men in the community about Warhammer and how we're bad and gatekeepers, and that is not the episode. In fact, I couldn't be further from the truth. I think we as a community have been really good embracing all genders and sexual preferences and styles and, you know, religious and political. I don't see a lot of gatekeeping in our community, if any. Maybe in your community, I'm not sure, but generally what I see on Twitter, on Facebook, on Twitch, I think our community's been really good. So what I want to do is do a bit more of a celebration and let's talk to some women in the community and see what got them in here. And, you know, for some people who might want to get their partner into the game or, you know, like to get their partner to start playing, let's ask some questions from these women on how we can get, you know, the community to go from good to great, as opposed to we're doing a lot of bad things, which I don't believe we are. I truly do believe that we're doing really good. What else? I'm also working behind the scenes on the long-awaited Getting Started series. So building out basically if faction focus is here, like I've chosen an army and I want to get good at it, I want to go back to the start and I want to say, how do you start this game? How do you get into the hobby? How do you build? How do you paint? How do you learn how to play? I want to bring it all together and attempt to do my training video on getting into the hobby. So obviously Games Workshop have a really good series with Becca. There are some interesting styles, but I think I've got so my background is learning and development as well. So that's what I do for a job. So I think between my learning and development background, I'm going to put on my take on a training video to teach people how to play Age of Sigmar. So let's see how we go. I've built out a whole bunch of content. It's going to be a matter now putting it into a presentable format and then recording it. Yes, Duncan, God love him. Go check it out. I think it's Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy. He put up a little trailer 2 days ago. Definitely worth checking out. And I love Duncan. Duncan's done some really cool stuff, and I actually invited him through a video to talk about building a personal narrative. And anyone seen his free guild, he's got a kit bash free guild that uses the Zench mortal bodies in a very like Greek Roman style. I thought that was really beautiful. And him and Chris Peach have done some really cool stuff. So if we can't get those two, I'm sure we'll find some people who've done some amazing lore building. People like, Strength Hammer, Chuck Moore. There are so many great people who have built personal narrative to your army. So if not Duncan, we'll get another one, and we'll continue to do those videos over time. And Tyler has been harassing me. I know he doesn't call it harassing, but I'll call it harassing, to keep doing these. So I want to make a commitment. Once a month, we do a hobby hangout. I might alternate times to see if I can make it a bit more European friendly for our English and our European guests. But we'll do some more hobby hangouts, and obviously the emerging meta series. So trying to build like a diversified portfolio of different content that I think people are going to find interesting. Post it on Twitter, absolutely. And do check out the Discord. If you guys are hobbying, I would absolutely love you guys to jump on the Discord. Tyler, I don't have Discord open right now, but if people are posting in Discord, let me know, and I might even see if I can bring some on the screen and show off some of your amazing talents. But the Discord is in the description here. Go click that button, not the Tyler button. There's a button there. Leaving likes and positive comments, absolutely. It does help. Likes, comments always help with the algorithms of YouTube. Getting coached by Coached, although you've been trying to coach me lately with my Tempest Eye list. Whether I'm ready to be coached is another thing. Need to get more of this army painted. Just one color at a time, one model at a time. It'll happen. That would be great. I'm still looking for resources on basic wargaming tactics and advice. Sorry about that. They kind of dropped off for a second. I don't know what happened there. My wife must be downloading something on the interwebs. I don't know what she's doing, but she shouldn't be. She's watching Foxtel. Sorry about that drop. But yeah, what I was saying was, let me know if you've been teaching someone how to play the game, or if you know that there's some questions that have been you're struggling with, or maybe Age of Sigmar is a game that's all about deployment and all about movement. And if you're struggling with certain parts of the game, or you don't understand certain parts, I would love to hear your comments. So put it in the comment section, jump into Discord, hit me up on Twitter. I'd love to hear what you guys need from a resource point of view that would help you play the game. A lot of people just play the game and talk about the lore. But yeah, it kind of leaves where the cool and the roles that are filled. Absolutely. Rocco and I were having a really good chat the other day, and he challenged me and said, well, what does the role of that hero do? And for some people, they're like, oh, I don't really understand. It's just a hero choice. Is it there to support a particular unit? Is it meant to there to be able to fight in combat or retain an objective? Is it there to support or to challenge your opponent? Is it meant to be there to be a distraction piece? And all of this kind of stuff comes into the mix and gets you thinking about the game. Struggle with deployment. Yeah, absolutely. Deployment is an interesting one. Let's explore that. Tyler, we can jump on Discord and chat about that as well and flesh it out. I think, yeah, absolutely. How do you deploy? How do you, for some people, it's a real challenge because you might have a 12-inch deployment line, And for a lot of people, they deploy always on the 12, when that in itself might not be the right strategy. And even just going back even further before that is the questions that you ask your opponent. Could you turn one charge me? What's the longest shooting range that you have? What's the highest movement do you have? Can you run and charge? All of a sudden that makes you think about my deployment is like, well, there's 24 inches between us. You have a move of 16, you can run and charge, or you've got a shooting attack of 12. That means that you actually could attack me if the stars aligned. Or in fact, you just had, if I deploy on my 12, you can hit me. If I deploy on my 9, I can avoid that. So I learned that the hard way very, very early on when I played the old murder host. It was a corn battalion, and you would get bum rushed by 90 bloodletters in turn 1 if you deployed on your 12-inch line. So I learned very quickly if I deployed on my 8, I could avoid the bloodletters hitting me, and then I could shoot them. I could do my thing. But yeah, deployments are all funny things. So I think exploring that would be very helpful. Yeah, so Rocco and I were talking about, and Rocco made an interesting point. So I was sharing the, so last night I played a game against an Ogre More Tribes army. And it was 4 Stonehorns, a Thunder Tusk, 2 units of 2 more Fang Cavalry. That was it. That was literally it. Or maybe it was 3 units of Mornfang Cavalry. So that was all it was. And he turned 1 charge me, and I thought it'd be smart to put my Phoenix Guard. So we were playing Battle for the Pass. So if you're not familiar with Battle for the Pass, the scenario, I'm not doing a lot of painting in this Hobby Hangout. You guys are awesome. Thanks for hanging out with me. I've tried brush some bases. That's about as far as I've gotten here. But what I thought I'd do is Battle for the Pass, you play the table long ways. So instead of having that long deployment zone, you've got a very narrow deployment zone. So you've only got, the 20, the distance between you is not as much. So I thought it'd be smart to put my Phoenix Guard in a nice little line, and I wanted to block all the Stonehorns and the Thunder Tusks from kind of wrapping around and going to my backfield objective. So I strung out a line of 30 Phoenix Guard, and while they did their job, that was an expensive 400 points to lose. Eventually, when 1,800 points charged you, only because 1 unit of Mornfang Cavalry failed its charge, even with a reroll, so everything else charged me. And Rocco made a really good comment. He said, why don't you, instead of screening with the Phoenix Guard, screen with the Pistoliers, run them forward, block off the objective, and then the Phoenix Guard could sit behind, so that if you're going to screen, you only lose the Pistoliers. And because they're a little bit faster than the Phoenix Guard, where I was trying to play with the, I was trying to flank with my Pistoliers to kind of put them on the side and run around and kind of pew, 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 and go for their backfield objectives, which didn't work. In a different scenario where I might have had a bit more space on the table, it might have worked. But Rocco had made a really good comment to say, why don't you screen with something different? So that's that one decision in the deployment changes a lot. And, having those strategies and having those ideas will help you. And I think that comes with experience. It comes with learning, practicing, trying things. And I think that, there's something that we could probably collaborate on and do something. So maybe that's a topic for discussion on the Discord. Let's talk about deployment strategies and learn how to deploy and put out a video. So sounds good. So I'm just gonna go grab my Agrex Earthshade gloss. I should actually try to paint. Do you rub Pistoliers? I don't rub my Pistoliers. I know what you're trying to say. Here's run. Do you run your Pistoliers in 2 5s and a 10? I did run a unit of 10 and a unit of 5. And the reason I wanted to run a unit of 10 is Pistoliers have a cool shooting attack, especially when you buff them up. And when they charge, they get to shoot again. And my unit of 10 actually brought down a Stonehorn. Didn't have the Ethereal Amulet on it. That was another one. But the Pistoliers can do some damage, especially when you have the Hawkeye trait that comes from the Tempest Eye, and you also have the Hurricane giving +1 to hit. So they're basically hitting on like 3s, wounding on 2s. Should move my camera over. But if I was purely looking for screening, and that was all, going for objectives and screening, then I would have 2 or 3 units of 5 as opposed to a block of 10. A 10 would be probably a bit of a waste for screening alone. But Tyler, I certainly don't rub my Pistoliers. Although maybe if I should have, maybe if I rubbed them a bit more, they would have been nicer to me on the table. Although the gun haulers were hot garbage. They are good, but I could not roll a positive dice roll to save my life. I think they did 1 damage, 1 wound on a Stonehorn last night. I could have cried. If I needed everything to fire, and it was like the opposite. So, but it's good that I had that lesson. There's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. So it's important to test some ideas out before taking them to a main tournament, and practice is important. You should try different things. You could see how lists go, and I told a story, I think, on a previous stream where I challenged my co-host Liam, who was running 2 catapults, and I said to him, I want you to go first. I had outdropped him, and the smart player would have said, I want to get to those catapults as quick as possible to kill them. And my decision at that time was, I actually want you to shoot me, and I want to see how bad these OBR catapults are, so that I can truly understand their damage potential, see what they would do to my army. And if I was in a position where I couldn't actually choose who went first, I wanted to see how would I appropriately respond, and what would I need to do to take out that unit or those 2 units if I didn't have the choice. So practice games and testing theories and your losses are just as important as the wins. In fact, more so, as long as you're learning. So, which is why I was very happy to practice and make sure that I'm not in that position again. And I've at least got an appropriate response. What are you using your CPs for in the Tempest Eye list? Good question. So, Rocco, we were talking about this on Discord, where we talked about the value of an Azeros versus a Battle Mage versus a Anointed on Foot. So the Anointed on Foot makes my Phoenix Guard immune to Battle Shock, which is a CP saver, which is good, and it's a good little hero that can make the Phoenix Guard re-roll their wound rolls, which is a nice little touch. The biggest area that I found I was spending my CP on yesterday was re-rolling 1s to hit, or re-rolling 1s to save. In my Hallow Heart list, where I had 9 spellcasters, I had plenty of spells to put a Mystic Shield on. But now that I've only got 2 spellcasters, the Hurricane and a Battle Mage, I wanted to be able to put a Mystic Shield on, essentially, or the reroll 1s to armor save, without spending. And I had 2 endless spells as well, which might be a bit overkill in this list. Quicksilver Swords and Life Swarm. So I don't have a good answer for you yet. I'm probably not as CP reliant as I used to be. So I have the option of running and charging, but even then, the gun haulers, once per battle, can add 6 inches to its move, or it can fly high. So I think re-rolling 1s, God damn it. Shout out to Jack, re-rolling 1s without even talking about Jack. But yeah, re-rolling 1s is probably where the CPs were going. I didn't need the Inspiring Presence. And it's not worth it. Yeah, ask that question. Cool. So that's kind of where I'm going with the channel. So I'd like to start doing more guests from overseas. From obviously, this channel is very much around Australia. I mean, not about Australia, but I want to make sure that the Australian community has a voice. Although we've started bringing out more and more podcasts and more content creators. So maybe my original purpose, which was about giving Australia a spotlight that we didn't really have, back in the day. You had Heel and Hammer and Face Hammer and Garage Hammer and Bad Dice, and had all these great podcasts that covered Age of Sigmar, but never about Australia. So when I very first started, the only, I guess, Australian community role model I had was Doom and Darkness. Dwellers Below, which was a Warhammer Fantasy podcast, had stopped playing for a long time. They were out of the scene. So I originally started this as well to give Australia a voice, but now we have so many podcasts. I don't know if Australia, I don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Do you guys enjoy hearing from the Australian community? Would you like to hear more from the international community, knowing that there's already so many great international YouTube, Twitch podcasts out there? Or do you like me, giving first preference to Australia, New Zealand? I don't know. I think I'm very much open to ideas, and I think the channel just passed 2 years about a month ago. I think I kind of started this channel leading into CanCon, the second CanCon, and I'd filmed 2 videos before I went out to Vietnam around how to prepare for a tournament and then how to do well at a tournament. And they were my first videos. And I know people are still watching these videos to today. They're like 2 years old, so they're quite outdated. And I probably need to re-record them, but the world has changed. There's a lot more podcasters, a lot more content creators, and Australia now has their voice between Heralds of War, which have been around for a long time. Mortally Wounded's out there. You've got, the Dwellers Below are back. You've got Bush Radio. You've got, Sean, who's in the community. He's new. He's set up a hobby, more of like a hobby mindset kind of podcast. I don't know. It's interesting. What do you guys have to say? I mean, there are worse channels to shout out. I mean, there's Dimensional Cascades, which is a great, although they're not Australian, they do awesome bat reps. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think comparing and contrasting the different AOS ecosystems would be interesting. Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think so. This month, a bit of a sneak peek is my good friend AOS Reminders has been able to give me some access to data that I can now separate the data by region. I'm going to play around with the data tonight and tomorrow to see, is there any differences in the lists and the meta design between Australia, America, and the UK? Is America jumped onto Change Host more than Australia? Is the UK more about Fire Slayers? And, is there a different, is there different metas, or are we seeing consistencies across the meta? I don't know yet. But shout out to AOS Reminders who's helped me with that, and I'm going to see. But I think you're right. There are different ecosystems. I've played in the UK. I played in Australia, obviously. I played in America. I'll be going to New Zealand. I haven't played in any of the other regions at all, but there's a lot of commonality, but also a lot of very different differences between it. Tyler, I think it's interesting to hear and listen for perspectives from different parts of the world, how other communities rate. Yeah, there is a lot of great knowledge out there, and I think more and more people are finding their voice, whether they do it in a blog form, in a Twitter post, or create a channel. You love the Aussies. It's fresh perspective from the America, and you guys have different meta. Yeah, it is, but it also isn't. Like, CanCon was won by a Change Host. Like Fire Slayers did really well. I think the difference, if anyone's wondering about, the Australian and New Zealand community, I think one big difference for us is that the cost of our hobby is a lot more expensive. we don't get the discounts. We don't get the 20% discounts. We don't have a very big local game store community. We're dominated by Games Workshop. And because of that, I think our people hold onto their armies longer than others. So we're not quick to jump on the latest cool army. But at the same time, we're not quick to get rid of our Dispossessed and our Free People and our old Dark Elves. If people really love their Seraphon, they'll still run Seraphon. While in other communities, they would probably get shelved until a new battle tome came out. So I think that's the difference for us. And because we know that there's going to be Seraphon, there's going to be Legions of Nagash, there's going to be, Sylvaneth still, I think that changes our meta a little bit because we need to factor that in. So that's the difference in our meta, to see if anyone's interested. The Australian meta has shifted. Yeah, absolutely. Gets around the world. Shout out to, they got the name drop. Do you need another Zench player? There's a whole bunch of Zench players who have put their hands up. I have reached out to a gentleman. Name's Chris something Jr. He's in my Twitter. I apologize, Chris, if you're watching this. But he's an exceptional Zench player. He's been playing Zench for a long time. He's done very, very well with Zench, even when they didn't have a new battle tome. So in the old battle tome, he was still doing really well. So I reached out to him. There's a few others that I'm playing around with. I would happily take your recommendation, John. The challenge will be is that Chris is based in Ireland, Scotland. So making sure that the time differences between all three countries, since it's being recorded by me, is always a challenge too. So yeah, Zench is the last one we need to do before Seraphon and any other book drops. So that is where the channel is going, what we're doing. We've got a Discord that's been happening now. Set up a Discord a few months ago, and originally it was Patreon only. Now we've opened it up to everyone, and a lot of cool people are getting in there, talking hobby, sharing lists. So Tyler and John Rocco are two wonderful community members who have always been very supportive of the channel, and they're also talking a lot of cool stuff. So if you want to share pictures about your dog or your cat, you want to show hobby progress of what you're working on, if you want to show off photos of your battle reports, you just want to talk, we do have a cool Discord that is in the channel description that I highly recommend you jump in. If not, that's cool. Actually, I could probably show you this while I'm here as well. So at CanCon, I did a painting class with Vince Venturella from Warhammer Weekly, and I got painting up my my Maw Squig. So it's a Maw Crusher, but with the head of a squig. And you see there's a goblin hero on the top. So learning wet blending and freehand. So, doing some freehand little designs on the back of the tail. But more importantly, doing wet blending on the base there, on the belly. So, which is it was a cool little workshop to do, and learning a lot about wet blending. But probably should play with my Maw Squig at some point. Yes, Rocco, you came here, you ruined the flow of the channel, and then you started hijacking and shouting out podcasts. Bad person. So while I set up and start to put a little bit of color on my, there's the camera. That didn't help at all. No, that didn't help at all. My Ice Queen of Kislev, do you have any questions, anything that you would like to know about me or the channel, any questions that you've been dying to ask? Anything that you would like me to focus on? I'll probably be streaming now for probably another half an hour. So I've been live now for about an hour, probably another half an hour. I've still got husband stuff to do. I've done some meal prepping for the week. I've got to take the dog for a walk. I still need to go to the gym, and then I'm going to do some dinner stuff. So you got half an hour with me. So you got stuff to ask. You want to talk. You want to just hobby and just chill. Absolutely okay. But if you've got any thoughts as well for next week's episode where I talk with, so I've got Gemma Shepherd from the Failed Charge podcast, who's also, you might know her from the Honest Wargamer had done the CanCon stream for the T-Sport Network. And Gemma was one of the color commentators on the CanCon coverage this year. So Gemma was awesome. She's going to be one of my guests. Another one of my guests is going to be Christine. You might know her as Hook and Pin. So she's very, very vocal on Twitter. I think she's amazing. I'm a big fan of her. And she'll be another one of my guests on the Warhammer Women of Warhammer episode. And I've got one more guest that just got to confirm her availability at work. And we should have a pretty neat panel of women talking about their time in the hobby, what they've really enjoyed, what they like out of the community, and some things that maybe they'd like to see in the future. I'm sure nothing like men wearing deodorant is going to be the focus. Far from it. Although we probably could wear more deodorant, to be honest. I probably stink. And I haven't gone to the gym yet. We all stink. I should probably shake my paints. I just realized I didn't bring my my palette with me because I'm a content creator, not like a painting guy. And of course, I leave it in the lounge room where I do all my hobbies. So I normally do all my hobby in the lounge room, which is where my wife and my dog hang out. And it's a nice way to stay connected without hiding away. You'll have dinner. What the fuck? Lost paint time again. G'day from Germany, or Guten Morgen, or Guten Abend. I was having this joke with another German. So I love Germany. Never been, but Rammstein's one of my favorite band. And in high school, I got to choose one language to learn out of 4. I could have chose French, Italian, Mandarin, but I chose German. And as a 13-year-old, I learned Guten Morgen, mein Name ist Anthony, wie heißt 13 Jahre alt, which should translate in hello, my name is Anthony and I'm 13 years old. Please critique me how bad my German is after not practicing for a long time. I still remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm terrible. G'day, Eric. Coach, do you paint the names on your heroes onto their bases? I have not. They're on the they're on my army list. It's actually funny because 2 Plus Tough Doug put out a video the other day that he beat me to it. And there are a bunch of cool companies that will actually print off the names of your characters or your units, and they put it around the rim of the base. So you can kind of get these little nameplates. So I was looking at ordering some of those, and Doug recently, 2 Plus Tough, put up a video doing a review on them. So highly recommend checking them out. And that's where I am on that. So I am sitting on the fence, but I know someone like Dan Brewer who plays Skaven. He's very funny, and what he does is he writes all of his opponents' names on the base of his clan rat. So he's got like 100 or 200 clan rats. So knowing that your name is under a clan rat is much lols. Spencer, hey man, thanks for the Gits faction focus. Yep, mate, I'm glad that the Gits video helped. I'm really keen to get back into Gits. Depending on when the Sons of Behemoth come out, I may even get the Gits out for CanCon next year, because I've got a cool idea for a display board that I think really fits the Gits well. So I came 3rd last year in Coolest Army. That was not prepared. I just happened to have my Forge World bronze trophy there. But I would love to come 2nd or 1st. So I'm going to start preparing my CanCon base. But glad you enjoyed the Gits. They are a bloody awesome, fun army. Yeah, fluff, narrative. And I think that's part of the reason why I want to have Doug 2 Plus Tough. And I want to get a few other people to talk about how do you build a narrative? How do you, and I know, again, Doug put out a video, 2 Plus Tough, around a competition of building your lore, but how do you get started? How do you find your place in the mortal realms? How do you build out names for your characters? What's the story? How do you build that story and bring it to life? And this is why I want to get some players to talk through their experience and their advice on how do you get to that point. Wet Palette Warrior, yes, those terrain, the versatile terrain nameplates are awesome. So if that's Brant, I think it is Brant. Hello, Brant. Thank you for sharing your nameplates with me at Runax, because they are effing cool. They're very, very cool, and it's a nice little spin on your narrative. Yeah, the Claw Lord, love it. And the Claw Lord is for a good gentleman. We won't do any spoilers. So I'm going to start putting some paint on. So far in 1 hour, what have I done? I have dry brushed a couple of bases. I put a wash on. You guys are super distracting. If I thought I could actually achieve some hobby in a hobby hangout, I'd be really disappointed. But I learned my lesson from last time where I started working on a Hurricanum, and I don't think I did any work on the Hurricanum over 90 minutes. So I thought I'd scale it back a little bit with something a bit more achievable, which is bases. And now we're going to work on the Ice Queen of Kislev on her Frost Phoenix. I have seen War Soren lately, although it's probably a good time to check in. Check in with all your buddies, by the way, if you haven't heard from any of them lately, whether it's War Soren, whether it's anyone in the community. Give them a shout, give them some love, let them know that they are loved and you miss them dearly. And that's one of the cool things about going to tournaments. You know, I mentioned right at the start of the episode that I'm almost going to a tournament every month, and it's not about the competitive match play. It's never about going in there and smashing my opponents and drinking their tears. It's about catching up with friends that you haven't seen for a long time, people that you've met on Twitter or Instagram or in the chats here, that you really enjoy their company and getting to hang out with them. I mentioned going to New Zealand in September. I'll be going there because I only get to see the New Zealand crew once a year, twice a year at most. I'm going to hang out with a guy called Seth Cook, who is an amazing human, I thoroughly enjoy their company, and just hang out with cool people and meet new cool people that I don't get to meet. So if you're not doing that, that's why you can attend tournaments. You know, it's not a scary place. I know a lot of people are a bit worried about going to tournaments, and they think that it's just like some evil place that people just want to crush your hopes and dreams. It's far from it. Yeah, you might get a hard matchup. Yeah, you might find an army that you struggle against, but 99.9999% of your opponents are incredible. They are a lot of fun, and you're going to meet new people and new friends along the way. So take the opportunity to go to events when you can. Yeah. But are you guys going to any events that I need to know about? What are your hobby goals right now? Are you striving to, like me, I'm painting up an army to prepare for a tournament. Not always the best thing to do. It's good to get your painting focused and motivated. That's not very helpful. Doing a painting cam, I'm not even painting under the cam. Go me. I'm best painting content creator out there. But what events are you guys going to? Are you attending an event? Come to Australia and come to my event. If you're coming to Midwest Meltdown, let me know. I'd love to say hello. I'm going to see if I can bring some Australian goodies with me as well. God damn. Not being very good at this Hobby Hangout person. Is anyone going to Adepticon? Richard, I went last year. I'm sad I'm not going this year. There's a lot of cool people going. I'm super. Now that I've been to Adepticon and I know what I'm missing out on, it makes it really hard. It's like flying first class, And then once you've flown first class and you know all the perks and the treats and the you're not sandwiched next to a bunch of people, or you're not squished in a window, the good life. That's what Adepticon's like. You go there, it's 4 or 5 days, an amazing convention. There's Warhammer that goes for like 4 days. There's so much great stuff going. People want to buy me stuff from the convention and want to buy me the Games Workshop exclusives. I would happily give you money in return if you guys happen to be at Adepticon and buy any of the exclusives, because they're pretty sweet. I bought a dice tray last year. Really nice wooden felt tray dice. Which is very nice. Rocco has a GT in April, and obviously he's got his league games going, which is pretty cool, and a couple of monthly tournaments. Trying to work up the courage to your local game shop and play with strangers. Currently play one with a few friends. Mate, Safeguard, I highly recommend going to play with the strangers. A stranger is just a friend you haven't met. I think it's a Simpsons quote. That was really bad. That was really dodgy. But it's true. It's true. Is there anything I can do to help you with playing with strangers? Please let me know. The key to playing with strangers, in my opinion, is just high communication. Just ask your opponent what type of game they want to play. Ask them about their army. They're no different to playing with someone you already know. For some people, they're very quiet, they're very introverted. For some people, just asking a couple of questions like, tell me about yourself, a bit more personal, get someone to open up a little bit, and you kind of read them at the table. I don't think I've ever played, even before I was a content creator, I don't think I ever played a bad game with someone who I didn't meet. Not everyone's as talkative as I am, and that's okay. But you quickly get to learn people's styles, and you adapt like you do in general life. Right. Do let me know what I can do to help you there. Meeting a game that's in March. This is pretty cool. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. 1K is a great place to start. Gives you enough room to practice with some things. And then 2K gets even better, right? You get to have more monsters, more big heroes. You get to have, war machines and magic and cool stuff. And Rocco is 100% correct as well. Once you've expanded your player base, you just got more people who you get to play with. Get experiences to different armies. I'm gonna try to. So I set up. So this painting stream, I set up a second camera, and I keep forgetting about it. So apologies if anyone actually came here to watch me paint. If that was your goal in life, I apologize. I have failed you. But yeah, I mean, something that I do at my tournament. So Sydney GT, the event that I run on a yearly basis, something that I do to help people get to know each other. Obviously, Facebook is such a great asset for that. You can kind of talk about things and get to learn players before you attend. But I give everyone a name badge, like a little lanyard that goes around their neck, which has their name on it. But I also put their Twitter handle or their Instagram handle on it as well. So if you want to follow someone, I always take a photo with my opponents that I put it on Twitter. And, I might say to my opponent, do you have a Twitter handle? Do you have an Instagram handle? I'll tag you on the photos that I take over the game. And then, after that game, I can keep talking to that person, or, we can build a bit of rapport. And, sometimes, when you take that photo, they make a face, or they laugh, and they, make hand gestures. And that can kind of loose the tension on the tabletop. Or if you're taking some gaming photos, ask them what their favorite model is. And if they've done a lot of great work on their Marathi, or they're really proud on a certain unit that they've converted, take some photos of it. And people like people who like themselves. Like, we all have Warhammer as a common interest, right? So if I show appreciation to a model that you've done a great job on, you'll find that people will open up to you more, and they'll share their story. I find asking people questions, not like annoying questions, but just asking questions about their army, like, why did you choose Daughters of Cain? What made you pick a purple scheme as opposed to a red scheme? All of a sudden, again, get people talking, and they'll share a lot about themselves, and you'll learn, much like you have with your friends when you very first met them. You weren't immediately friends with them. You learnt about them and you liked them. Eric is new to this. He's gotten, mainly convinced myself it's okay to spend. It absolutely is okay to spend. Stormcast Eternals and Nighthaunt. And now you're going to play with them. Well, congratulations. You're going to have a lot of fun. My advice to you, if you haven't played yet, is keep it simple. Don't try to overcomplicate it with magic and artifacts. Keep it very much to the basics of the game. There's a scenario called First Blood in the basic rulebook, the core rulebook, that you can learn the foundations of the game. So you can learn how Nighthaunt play and Stormcast play. So don't overcomplicate it. I think the people who try to put too much too soon, they struggle with all the rules, but they're just optional things, right? So get your Stormcast out, get your Nighthaunt out, find a friend, play, roll some dice, have a lot of fun, and tell a story. How do you prepare? So how does one usually buy all the battle tomes? First off, g'day, Horace. Nice to see you here, bud. I hope you're having a great Saturday. I was going to say Wednesday. I normally stream on Wednesday, but it's not Wednesday, it is Saturday. Hope you're doing well, bud. Sad I can't come to Brishammer, but hopefully you'll see you sometime soon. But Eric, so how do you prepare? So here's a secret. 99.9% of people have not got all the battle tomes. In fact, most people only have 1 or 2 battle tomes, the armies that they play. So don't worry about your opponent's battle tomes. If you need to learn about an opponent, ask them. They always got their battle tome with them, so you can always ask them, can I read it? Can you show me that rule? If you want to know more about their rules, you've got the Age of Sigmar app, which is available for free on iTunes and on the Apple Store, and that has all of your units. There's another interesting website that I've spoken about a few times now called AOS Reminders, which is a free website that allows you to get all of your units, so you can pick your Stormcast units. And what it will do is it'll generate the rules for your army by the phase. So everything you need to know in the hero phase, everything you know into the shooting phase, the movement phase, the charge phase. So it makes it really simple. So that's one way that you could prepare and learn about your own army. So your Stormcast and your Nighthaunt. So don't worry too much about your opponents just yet. You'll learn mostly from experience, because a Daughters of Cain army, for example, you can build it probably a million different ways. So learning one way is just one way. So my advice would be is that learn about what your army does. And then once you finish with Stormcast and Nighthaunt and you want to play something different, maybe it's the Gits, maybe you want to play Nurgle, that's where maybe you want to look through some battle tomes and watch the videos like the faction focuses that I do to find that next army. But you're in good hands with Stormcast and Nighthaunt. I went to a 40-person tournament last event. It was interesting to see the gifts and gestures, and people would greet. Yeah, what type of gifts and gestures? So I often give my opponents a small gift. Not always, but sometimes. When I went to America, for example, at Adepticon last year, each of my opponents, I gave them a packet of Tim Tams, which is like royalty in Australia. It's actually, I'm sending some over to an American soon. But Tim Tams are delicious, and they were a small gift that I gave my my opponents, as well as I think a small little Vegemite and something else that was Australian. But it's a nice little icebreaker. Interesting icebreakers that look like a positive experience before the match. So I mentioned one of my very first videos that I did was preparing for a tournament. And I think in that video, I will re-record it. I swear I will re-record it now with my 2-3 years of additional knowledge. But one of the things that I mentioned in that video was, what are the types of questions that you want to ask your opponent so that you don't get caught out and you have a surprise? You know, and some of the things that you might want to ask is, how many points is your army? Because you want to know if you get a triumph or not. You want to know how many deployments do they have? So who is likely to go first? Do you have any magic casting? How many endless spells do you have? Can your army run and charge? You know, what is your fastest unit? That's just a couple of things, right? Like, can you teleport? Can you come on the side? Can you summon units? Like, that's just like a couple of questions. I'm sure if I sat down properly, I could write down a million questions, but here, that just might be some questions that you might want to ask to make sure that you have a good experience. And like halfway through the game, they don't tell you something. And you're like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And you've had a bad time, or, you know, you've been surprised. And if you knew that the army could do that, your actions might have changed. So icebreakers and getting to know somebody. Of, you know, something that I ask all of my opponents is, how long have you been playing Age of Sigmar? And if someone tells me that they're quite new to the game, I may, you know, or if this is their first tournament, you know, I want to make sure they have a good experience. Or I might not play as hard, especially if I can tell that they're not familiar with the scenario. Or I might want to remind them of how they score on this scenario. Again, you want to create good impacts. One guy made bracelets, the other guy made a necklace. Someone made treats. Yeah, one of the girls who came to my Sydney GT last year, Beth, the 14-year-old girl, she made little candy bags for her opponents, and she was playing Nurgle. And she called them Nurgle's gifts, and there was, like, you know, some different candies and, you know, some little treats that which I thought was really cute. A lot of fun. There's a player in Sydney who's now in Canada. You might know him from the Honest Wargamer stream, called Dispossessed Dan. But I remember Dispossessed Dan would give his opponents an objective marker. It would often be like a resin or an acrylic or a custom built objective token. And that would be his gift. And being a dwarf player, if he lost, he wanted to make sure he had an opportunity in the future to play that opponent again. Sorry, someone just tried to call me on my phone, so I've just cancelled that, and we should be having the painting stream back. But he would use that as an opportunity, as a grudge, to play them again. So, or they write them down in the Book of Grudges, or again, there's a lot of cool ways that you can build your own narrative, have fun, and ultimately build your, just get into the hobby. Another question reminds me of a question I found asked yet. Is there any good formats where you can ask questions, mostly rules, that Games Workshop don't seem to have? Yeah, there's a couple that come to mind. The first one I would call out is one called TGA, or it's called the Grand Alliance. It's a very popular forum that a lot of people use. Highly recommend you check out TGA. There's a lot of different sub-threads for all the different armies, so you can ask questions and you can kind of find insights from the community. Another great place would be Facebook. Facebook has a lot of different independent groups for the different armies. So if you had one, something that's a bit more niche about, you wanted to know about Stormcast, you go to the Stormcast group and you could ask questions about Stormcast. And experienced Stormcast players could teach you about Stormcast. or Nighthaunt or whatever army it is, right? But there's literally a group for every faction. So Facebook's a good one. Twitter, the Twitter community is really great. And follow along to people, or tag someone like me and I can repost it, or just generally use the hashtag Age of Sigmar and people will find you. The last one is places like Discord as well. So I've mentioned a few times now, I've got a Discord channel, so go down here. But there are other cool Discord channels. I think 2 Plus Tough has one, Mr. Mephisto has one. The Mortal Realms podcast has a Discord. So if you can't find the answer that you have in my Discord, you could find some of the other Discord channels. So they're kind of places you could ask questions and elicit responses and feedback and ideas. And then more than just questions, list building, or the way these things interact. Or hey, I had a game against Nagash. I don't know how to handle Nagash in my army. What's some cool ways that Stormcast can handle Nagash? You can ask those type of questions as well. So yeah, gift giving, painting customer markers for the whole day. Now that's a lot. Maybe you don't want to go down too much down that. Maybe for your first tournament that you play, but I think even just buying an opponent a drink or a beer can be really nice. If you're gonna go to the bathroom and you're gonna go buy yourself a drink, asking your opponent, do they want a drink? That goes a long way. So you don't have to go crazy and buy custom markers. Just buying opponent a drink. I don't know if I still have them. I used to have a jar up there, which had some little lolly mushrooms that I had bought from IKEA. No, like literally gummy lollies that were shaped like a mushroom. And when I played my Gits, I would always have like a little bag of mushrooms, because Gits, the goblins are known eating mushrooms, and they give them like hallucinogenic magic powers. So I always give my opponent a couple of little gummy lollies, or it's been a long tournament day, a small little snack, and it's very thematic to my army as well. But a lot of different ways you can do this. We are getting close to the 90 minutes that I told my wife that I would be on stream before I start doing more husband stuff to close out the day. So if you've got any questions, any thoughts, any comments, anything that you want to ask, this is the time to ask. Hobby progress still hasn't gotten very far. We have put one color down on the Ice Queen of Kislev. We've started putting down a little bit of blue, and it is quite hot today. It's like 30 degrees in Australia, which is probably about 80 degrees in America, depending on if you're on Celsius or Fahrenheit. So we've done a couple of bases. I have a lot of painting to do when it comes to this next tournament in a fortnight's SAGT. But if you have any extra questions, any thoughts, any comments, anything that you would like advice on, this is the time to do it before I start wrapping up the stream. Buckets has been a very, very cool human, has kept me accountable. So I will attempt, I do want to do this monthly at a minimum. So if you've enjoyed the hobby stream, make sure you let me know in the comments. We are sharing lots of things on Discord and Twitter and things. So this is not the only time we can do hobby, but well, I'm not really doing hobby. I'm talking to you guys and putting a lick of paint on this. They didn't really get very far. Buckets' stepson wants to watch more Mona, and absolutely happy. Thanks for asking me and telling me to do the hobby chat. We'll do one for March. We'll do one for April. We will get these scheduled. If there's nothing further you guys want to add, I will just wrap up the show, and I'll keep an eye out for the comment section. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. There's a lot of cool stuff going to be happening over the next couple of months. As I've mentioned, I'm going to a whole bunch of tournaments, so I'm sure we'll get Down Under Sigma back on. We kind of put it on hiatus. Butchered that up. Put it on pause while I caught up on all the faction focuses. I'm going to start recording Emerging Meta in the next couple of days. So the Emerging Meta series, the month is almost over. So look out over the next 7 days for the new Emerging Meta video. Next Sunday, Women of Warhammer is going to be recorded. I've got 2 Plus Stuff Doug coming up at the middle end of March. I'm at a tournament, South Australia GT, SAGT, middle of March. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of photos and stories being shared along the way. Faction Focus Zench needs to be done. And finally, after like 9 months, Flesh Eater Courts was recorded last week. So thank you for your patience on that one. And then finally, I've mentioned we'll be doing more international guest videos as well as Australian videos. And I will be recording maybe in April, maybe March, depending on how GW goes with their Seraphon and Pointy Elf releases. We'll get that getting started video series. So if there's things that you guys want to know, any thoughts, any ideas, any comments, do let me know. And wrapping it up, if you guys have held on this long, I can share with you that I am in the final stages of building a website where I've got a whole bunch of AOS Coach merch if you are dying for merchandise. If you have always aspired to get a hat like this, or if you want like a shirt, or there's like something you want, I've got a little print on demand service now, so you can basically get what you want. So that's something that's going to be around. I'm not going to actively promote it. I'm not looking to, become a full-time content creator and quit my job. But if you guys want to get some merch, you want to get something fun, it's going to be available to you guys. So stay tuned. And finally, keep an eye on the Discord description down here. We can keep chatting after the show's over. No final questions have come out. Reminder to like the video, smash that subscribe button, press like, put a comment in, do what you do with other content creators. But this has been fun. Thank you everyone for hanging out with me. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll chat with you guys soon. Roll lots of sixes, and don't forget, shoot the characters.